Mr. Johnson, it's an honor.
The honor is mine, Miss Davies. I look forward to working together.
I didn't find out through rumors or confrontation. I found out the way most painful truths arrive accidentally, quietly, and far too clearly to ignore. Her phone lit up on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower, a message preview flashing just long enough to leave no room for misunderstanding. The message was from a name I recognized immediately. Her employer. A man whose wealth and influence were spoken about in whispers like he existed above consequences. I didn't touch the phone. I didn't need to. The truth settled into me with a strange calm that surprised even myself. For months, I said nothing. I just watched her. I noted how she started dressing differently for work, how her patience for me thinned while her confidence grew. She came home late, distracted, glowing in a way that no longer included me. I wasn't blind, I had just hoped I was wrong. Eventually, she stopped pretending. One night, during dinner, she casually mentioned that she might be traveling more, that her boss relied on her. There was something smug in her tone, something rehearsed. I realized then that she didn't feel guilty. She felt upgraded. I didn't argue, I didn't accuse. I simply nodded and finished my meal. When she finally confessed weeks later, she expected drama. Tears, anger, begging, instead she got silence. And that unsettled her more than shouting ever could. She explained how powerful he was, how lonely she had felt, how it just happened. I listened until she ran out of excuses, then I told her she was free to leave. She laughed at first, thinking I was bluffing, then she saw my eyes. The divorce was quick, clean. She moved into a world far shinier than the one we had built together. And she made sure everyone knew it. Social media posts filled with designer clothes and lavish vacations I was never invited to. She wanted me to feel small. But what she didn't realize was that I was already moving on. Not upward, inward. I focused on my work, on rebuilding a sense of self that had been slowly eroded by comparison and doubt. And that's when I met her. She wasn't introduced as the billionaire's wife. She was just a woman attending a charity event I'd been hired to consult on, quiet, observant, unimpressed by status. We spoke briefly that night, nothing personal, just polite conversation. But something about her felt grounded, like she existed in reality while everyone else was performing. We crossed paths again weeks later, then again our conversations grew longer. More honest. She never spoke about her marriage at first, and I never asked. People in glass houses rarely invite questions. When she finally did open up, it wasn't dramatic. It was just tired honesty. She spoke about the loneliness she felt inside all that luxury, about being seen as an accessory rather than a partner, about a man who controlled everything except his own loyalty. I didn't tell her my story right away either. But when I did, the strange symmetry of our situations wasn't lost on either of us. There was no plan, no scheme, no revenge plot. We were just two people, bruised by the same source, finding comfort in shared truth. What grew between us wasn't fueled by spite. It was built on understanding. Months passed. Then a year. Our connection deepened naturally, quietly. There was no secrecy, no manipulation. When her marriage finally ended, it wasn't because of me. It had been collapsing under its own weight long before I ever entered the picture. I was simply someone who saw her as a human being instead of as property. The irony didn't escape anyone. My ex found out eventually. Of course she did. She called me in a rage, accusing me of betrayal, of manipulation, of trying to win. The hypocrisy was almost impressive. I didn't argue, I just said calmly, "You didn't lose him. You lost me first." She hung up. Life shifted in ways I never could have predicted. Not because of wealth or status, but because I finally stopped chasing validation from people who measured worth in power. The woman beside me now doesn't need to dominate a room to feel secure. She doesn't need secrets to feel alive. One evening, as we sat quietly watching the city lights, she asked me if I ever felt satisfied with how things turned out. I thought about it carefully. "I don't see it as winning," I said. "I see it as choosing better." The past had tried to define me as replaceable, small, irrelevant. But betrayal doesn't get the final word unless you let it. I didn't steal anyone's wife. I didn't take revenge. I simply walked away from deception and toward honesty. And that choice changed everything. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever felt like your world was turned upside down, remember that you have the power to rebuild it. Subscribe for more stories like this, and I'll see you in the next one.